36 now. 29, when I turned 29, 30, I was working in a group home. Black teenage boys, they would go to therapy every Tuesday. And I would sit there and listen to their sessions and hear them talk about, them being adopted, their family not being there for them, just kind of like releasing stuff. And then like, if teenage boys can do this, why can't I? So I asked a therapist, I'm like, I got some stuff I need to unpack. It's my first time ever in therapy. First time. Nobody in my family's been in therapy. And I think the biggest debacle I had going on at the time was just, me trying to figure out my whole sexuality as a man, I think that was like the biggest thing that's kind of like hanging over my shoulders at the time. And she had challenged me to tell some of my friends about it. I'm like, you're wildin'. And I just happened to be in the group text with like, at the time, probably about 5 of my closest friends. She said, just pick 5 people. And I said, well, I'm here with them in this group text, so I might as well. So I told them, and you just never know the response you're gonna get from people. As a black man who's lived a life of homosexuality once upon a time, you just don't know, because the stigma that's around that in black men. And the conversation just went totally, I thought it was gonna go left, but it went right. It was just, I commend you for being in therapy. I'm glad you're working through you. One of my friends, I think I had a suspicion of it based upon what you've told me about your life and everything like that. But it was just, it wasn't nothing that made me say, you know what, I'm gonna be ashamed to go back into my friend circle. And that was like my journey to like starting to understand my emotions and how they function, how I function in my emotions as a black man.
Were you challenging your concepts of manhood at that time? Did you feel like you weren't fully a man through your process with that?
Absolutely. Like, okay. Even in my college years, like, I slept with so many women just to try to prove my manhood. Like, it was just like, I thought, because as a kid, I was taught, there's certain things you have to do to kind of like solidify your manhood. Watching porn was one of them, and that developed into me having a porn addiction. Sleeping with women was one of them. So it's like, I'm just, okay, well, to prove myself as a man, I'm gonna watch as much porn as I can. I'm gonna sleep as much women as I can to say, this is who I am as a man. And I realized as I grew older, I'm like, I'm doing myself so much harm that I am good to myself. And so it was just like trying to figure yourself out.
What did you uncover about yourself when you were going through therapy?
One, that I ain't the only person. Because for the longest, I don't know why I thought this, but for the longest I just thought like, Joevan's the only guy who's going through this right now, because it's just something that's not talked about. You don't hear too many men talking about, I was once on a DL, I once was molested as a kid. This is what transpired from all of that. I haven't found too many black men talking about it until like recently, when I ran into my homeboy. He has a group called the Survivor Circle, and it's a bunch of men just like me who've experienced the same exact things as I did. Lo and behold, I just found that probably about 2 years ago, but from 6, 7, 8 years ago, when I was like living that life, trying to figure myself out, it was just, I gotta hide, because, you hear stuff, or you listen to, you kind of listen to people's conversations about how they feel about black men. And, my man can't be gay, he can't be this, I never date this type of dude. And it's like, you feel a type of way about that, because it's like, now you're kind of suppressing everything that you want to release, that the little boy in me is screaming to release, but it's just, I kept suppressing it because of the fear of being judged.
How long did it take you to overcome that fear?
I think it took me, from the first time I stepped foot in therapy, I would say probably about a year or two. Just kind of just going through the motions and opening up about it to like, my closest friend and to my best friend, who I've been known since college. She's been with me through everything, a part of my life, to telling my parents, to telling my siblings, to telling to telling women when I started dating, this once upon a time, this is my part of my life. So it's just like, you go through all these emotions of telling your story over and over and over again. And that was the first episode of my podcast, was me just sharing my story, because I felt like if I want people to be vulnerable and open and transparent, it got to start with me.
Yeah.
And I felt like, and it felt good, finally being able to like kind of like break that piece of the ice of yourself that's, like where you're saying, I've held this in for so long, and I finally get to open up about it. I finally get to talk about it. I finally get to talk about it without my voice trembling or anything like that. It just started feeling better. And then when I hear the response of where there's men in my DMs talking about, yo, man, I went through that same exact thing, man. Thank you for just sharing that. men who want to work with me saying, man, I need some help on how to navigate this life that I'm living right now. So it's just, once I got over myself, I realized that I'm being a vessel, not just for myself, but for others.